You have no idea, do you? That's what I said, smiling, calm, deadly, as I stood in front of the crowd of overdressed aristocrats at the wedding of my wife's sister. 11 years. 11 damn years since they humiliated me, laughed at me, discarded me like some garbage tier extra in their medical dynasty. And now, here I was, standing in front of them, wearing a suit that cost more than my old car, holding a glass of champagne I didn't even sip. Not because I didn't want to, but because I wanted to watch them. Her mother, Judith, cocked her head like she couldn't believe her cataract-free eyes. "Why is this defect here?" she hissed through clenched Botox. Her sister, Emily, snorted. "You're not invited," she sneered, swaying in her overpriced designer gown, her voice laced with that same venom she used back when I first dated her sister. My wife. Well, wife, technically. She was still mine on paper. But it's not the paper that burns you. It's the ink. And right before her smug husband could say anything else, I interrupted. "You have no idea, do you?" I repeated. And they didn't. God, they really didn't. Let me take you back. Because the part where I walked in looking like a ghost from their past isn't the best part. The best part was the betrayal, the slow rot, the unraveling. The part where I realized the woman I built a life with was rehearsing lies in the mirror while I made her coffee. Her name's Madison. Back in the day, I was the ugly high school grad with ambition and a busted Corolla. She was the hot med school prodigy with the surgeon family and a mansion full of pride. Opposites attract, right? Yeah, until they don't. We got married when I was 23. Her parents didn't come to the wedding. They called it a circus. Her mother said marrying me would ruin the bloodline. I thought Madison was different. I thought she chose me despite them. I thought I mattered to her more than status and cocktails and LinkedIn handshakes. I was wrong. I built myself up. I worked hard, coding at night, freelancing during the day, selling old laptops out of my garage. One investment paid off, then another. By 31, I had a software company, 2 cars, and a beachfront condo she told her friends was too minimalist. But she stayed. And that was my mistake. I took her staying as love. I didn't know the real reason she stayed until last year. I came home early from a business trip to Boston. My flight got moved up due to a storm, and I decided to surprise her. You know, flowers, takeout, maybe a massage. The whole good guy act I still believed in. I pulled into the driveway. There was a black car I didn't recognize. A sleek one. One of those that screams, overcompensating for something. At first, I thought it was an Uber. Or maybe one of her colleagues. Madison always hosted little wine evenings with her network. I was the background noise. The guy who opened the wine. But when I walked in, keys jingling like a damn clown, I heard the laugh. His laugh. I still hear it sometimes. That casual, throaty chuckle. Confident. Arrogant. Intimate. Then her voice. Not the voice she used with me. The one with notes of sympathy and boredom. This one was playful. Breathless. Alive. She called him babe. And then I heard the footsteps. And a thud. I dropped the takeout bag. Sushi spilled across the floor like entrails. My heart. Same story. I stood there, frozen, as Madison walked out in one of my dress shirts, half-buttoned, makeup smeared like war paint. She didn't even flinch. "Oh," she said flatly. "You're back early." She wasn't scared. She wasn't even surprised. It was like she'd practiced this moment. Like she had a script for it, and I was late to the audition. Then he walked out. Tall, fit, smug. Wearing my Rolex. My damn watch. "Hey man," he said casually. "Didn't know you were coming home." I should have hit him. Should have screamed. Should have done something stupid. But I didn't. I walked past both of them, went to the bedroom, grabbed the small bag I always kept ready, and left. No words. No drama. Because I already knew what I was going to do. That moment, that exact moment, is why, 11 months later, I stood at her sister's wedding, in front of the same family that once spat on my existence, looking like success with a side of revenge. "You have no idea, do you?" I said again, louder now, making sure the whole damn tent turned. And Madison, standing there in the crowd, beside her new boyfriend, frozen, she knew what was coming. And that was just the beginning. They didn't speak right away. The silence stretched. It was the kind of silence that cuts deeper than words. Tight, suffocating, electric. Madison's mother blinked first, adjusting her pearl necklace like it could somehow protect her from the moment. I stepped closer. "You labeled me a defect," I said calmly, looking directly at Judith. A mistake. An embarrassment to your precious family. And yet here I am. Not as your son-in-law. Don't flatter yourselves. I'm here as a witness. A witness to what? Emily barked, trying to regain control. You crashing someone else's wedding? But her husband, bless his unsuspecting heart, spoke over her. This man is, he paused, glancing at Madison, who now looked like a ghost in blush-pink satin. He's the CEO of, wait, you're Jason Carter, aren't you? That name rippled through the crowd. Faces turned. Eyes widened. I caught a glimpse of a guy in the back whispering, then grabbing his phone, probably Googling me. And that was the moment I saw it. The shift. The horror crawling across Judith's Botox-frozen face, like time itself betrayed her. Because in her world, the only thing worse than being wrong was being publicly wrong. I smiled again. That slow, quiet kind of smile that says I know everything. Madison still hadn't spoken. Not a word. She was paralyzed, her mind flipping through possible explanations, defenses, manipulations. She couldn't find a single one. But I could, because I had the files, the texts, the receipts, and more importantly, I had the plan. See, when I walked out of our house that day, I didn't just leave. I started building. Not out of spite, not out of anger, but out of clarity. Every great betrayal rewires a man. Something inside dies, yes, but something else sharpens. Focus, resolve, coldness. I hired a private investigator. Not to catch her cheating, I already knew that, but to follow the pattern. And it wasn't just one guy. It never is with women like her. It was three. 2 doctors, 1 pharmaceutical rep, all within our circle, and all completely unaware of each other. Each one got the same version of Madison. Smart, successful, trapped in a marriage with a dull man who just works too much. They bought it. Hook, line, and dirty linen sinker. I had copies of every message. Her nude selfies, her location pings, the hotel bookings. The worst part? She never used our money. She made them pay. But what made my blood run cold wasn't the cheating. It was the way she talked about me. Jason doesn't notice anything. He's just boring, predictable, safe. But babe, you make me feel alive. That was the cleanest one. Another red. He wouldn't know passion if it hit him in the face. I fake every moan. I swear. It wasn't betrayal. It was disrespect. Casual. Smug. Rehearsed. I compiled it all. Stitched it together into a presentation. Like a damn business pitch, but with infidelity as the product. I didn't plan to show it to her family. That was never the point. But when the wedding invite for her sister came across my desk by accident, forwarded through a joint RSVP email I forgot to delete, I knew fate had just handed me a stage. So here we were. Why are you doing this? Madison finally whispered, stepping forward. You're humiliating yourself. I tilted my head. Am I? You didn't have to come here, she said, eyes narrowing. You could have just moved on. You always say you're above drama. You're right, I said. But then again, you always said you were faithful. That hit. She flinched. Just slightly. But I saw it. And so did everyone else. Emily tried to cut in again. This is our wedding, you lunatic. No, it's yours, I interrupted. But it's my closure. Then I pulled out the small flash drive from my inner pocket. Madison's eyes locked onto it like it was a gun. You wouldn't, she muttered. I raised a brow. Wouldn't what? Show them what you really are. The crowd was now fully silent. Phones down. Forks frozen in midair. Even the DJ stopped the instrumental track. Why don't we all take a quick intermission? I said loudly, handing the flash drive to the wedding coordinator. Emily, maybe you'll want to watch this before you sign those prenups. Jason, stop. Madison stepped forward, gripping my arm. You're destroying everything. I'm just showing the truth, I said softly, close enough for only her to hear. You already destroyed everything. And then I walked out. Not because I couldn't stay, but because I wanted them to watch without interruption. Let them learn who their golden daughter really was. Let them see what loyalty looks like in reverse. Let them sit in the ruins of their pride. And that was only the second best part. Because the best part was still coming. 3 days after the wedding, my phone exploded. Calls, messages, emails, from numbers I didn't recognize and a few I remembered all too well. Madison's name lit up at least 20 times. I didn't answer. Not once. Instead, I sat on my balcony, drank black coffee, and watched the waves crash against the rocks below. The silence felt different now. Heavier. Not painful, just final. At around 9 a.m., the doorbell rang. I already knew who it was. I opened the door slowly, letting her stand there for a full 5 seconds before I said a word. Madison looked like hell. Not the dramatic, mascara-running, crying in the rain kind of hell. No, this was real. Her hair was frizzy, her skin pale, her voice thin. "You happy now?" she whispered. "I'm free now," I replied. She stepped in without asking, the same way she always did, like it was still her space. "I can't believe you did that. At Emily's wedding? Are you sick? You embarrassed?" I asked. "That people saw the truth?" Her lip curled. "You didn't have to go nuclear." "Neither did you," I shot back. "But you still did. Just slower. Quieter. Colder." She dropped her bag to the floor and rubbed her forehead. "Jason, it wasn't like I was planning it. Things just happened." I laughed once. A low, bitter sound. "Madison, you had rotations." She flinched. "You had calendar blocks. Thursdays with Logan, Saturdays with Marcus, weekday lunches with Ethan. I've seen your calendar. The one labeled workshop hours. Real subtle. That's not fair." "Fair." I took a step closer. "You want to talk about fair? How about the time you told your friends I was your tax deduction with a pulse? How about the messages to your mother where you said you were counting down the months till I was replaceable?" She didn't respond. "Because there was no defense. I stayed with you because I loved you," I said quietly. "Even when your family hated me. Even when your success made me feel invisible. I never looked away from you. Not once. And you? You looked for an exit as soon as I stopped being a project." Madison stared at me like I'd hit her with a sledgehammer. "You think I'm just some monster, don't you?" she said, arms crossed, voice shaking. I tilted my head. "I think you're selfish. I think you're arrogant. I think you want to be worshipped, not loved." Silence again. Then she walked to the window and looked out, pretending to admire the ocean view. "So what now?" she asked finally. "Now." I shrugged. "Now you get a lawyer." She spun around. "You're divorcing me?" I raised a brow. "You thought I was going to stick around? That after all this I'd just sweep it under the rug like your little mistakes?" She stepped forward fast, her eyes wild. "We have 10 years, Jason. And you erased them," I said calmly. "Not me." Tears finally came to her eyes. "Real ones, maybe. Or at least good copies." "I was scared," she said. "Of what?" "Of you outgrowing me," she whispered. "Of being left behind. I know I acted like I was better than you. But I wasn't. I'm not. I saw you changing, getting stronger, more successful, and I panicked. It almost worked. That trembling voice, the hint of regret, the vulnerability. But then I remembered her smirk in those texts. The way she joked about my body. The way she said, "If I ever leave, he won't even fight back. He's too soft." So I stayed hard. "Save the tears," I said. "I'm not the same man who brought you coffee at 6 a.m. and kissed your shoulder while you fake slept." She sniffed and looked away. "I loved you," she whispered. I nodded. "You did. Like a child loves a toy. Until it stops being shiny." She didn't speak after that. Just walked out. No slamming doors. No final word. Just silence. But I wasn't done. Because while she thought the damage was public and the punishment personal, I had one more card to play. And this one would burn. The next move wasn't for revenge. It was for justice. 3 days later, I met with a man named Carter Westbrook, my legal counsel, and someone far too skilled to be dealing with petty divorce cases. But this wasn't just petty. This was about reputation, assets, leverage. I'd built everything from nothing, and I wasn't about to let her take half just because a signature said she'd once loved me. Carter had already reviewed everything. The evidence, the financial trail, the hidden accounts Madison had opened under her maiden name. Her plan had been long in motion. Quiet withdrawals from our joint accounts, under-the-table transfers to her brother's holding company, assets stacked where prenups didn't reach. She was trying to outmaneuver me, but she underestimated who I'd become. Carter closed the folder and looked up. "You've got her cornered." "Good," I said. "I want to make her feel the walls close in." "You want the house?" "No. Let her keep the walls. I'm taking the ground under them." The next morning, the first official letter went out, delivered by courier. I knew she'd be home. She was taking time off to recalibrate, as her new Instagram post said. A photo of her on a yoga mat with a fake smile and a caption, "Healing is messy, but worth it." The comments were filled with other self-centered frauds cheering her on like she was some war hero. Not a word about me. About us. Not a damn syllable. She called within 15 minutes of receiving the documents. I didn't pick up. A message came through. Jason, what the F asterisk 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 is this? Are you really doing this? You're acting like I murdered someone. I let it sit. Then I replied, no. If you had, at least that would have been honest. She didn't respond after that. Instead, her lawyer did. They offered a settlement. A clean 50-50 split. Said it would avoid embarrassment on both sides. Said it was the reasonable option. I declined. I had more than just texts now. I had video. From the security camera in our cabin upstate. She thought it was off. She had taken him there. The pharma rep told him it was her getaway house, that the husband didn't really matter anymore. The camera caught everything. From the flirty whispers to the moment she joked, if he ever finds out, I'll just cry and say it was emotional neglect. So I sent the footage to her lawyer. No context. No threats. Just a file named emotional neglect.mov. Silence for 3 days. Then a new offer came through. I'd keep everything. Business. Condo. Savings. Even the car she used. All she wanted was to avoid the court date. I agreed, but under one condition. A public statement. On her account. Not some vague note about growing apart. I wanted truth. Word for word, from her lips or fingers. I betrayed my husband. I lied, I cheated, and I manipulated. Jason Carter is not the villain. I am. I am stepping away from social media indefinitely. It went live at 10:14 p.m. By 10:19, the comments were a war zone. By 10:30, she turned off her profile. But not before I screen recorded everything. It wasn't about making her suffer anymore. It was about balance. She played the long con. I ended it in 3 moves. But I wasn't done healing. Because the hardest part wasn't the betrayal. It wasn't the lies, or even the public humiliation. It was the memories. The Tuesday mornings. The inside jokes. The time she got the flu and I stayed up all night watching her breathe just to make sure she was okay. It was the realization that I had loved a mask. And underneath that mask, there was nothing. That's what stung the most. Not the fall, but the fact that I never stood on solid ground to begin with. Weeks passed. The noise died down. Her social media was gone. Friends who used to tag us in couple posts stopped checking in. Even her sister Emily, after initially raging over the wedding sabotage, went quiet. Maybe she watched the footage. Maybe she realized who her golden sibling really was. Maybe her new husband had questions that couldn't be ignored. Didn't matter anymore. My life was still. Not peaceful yet, but still. Like standing in the ruins of a fire you didn't start, but had to finish. I went back to work. I redesigned our condo. Removed every piece of her from the walls, the shelves, the air. It wasn't hard. Madison was never one for personal touches. Her world was curated, not lived in. But some ghosts took longer to clear out. Like the smell of her shampoo that lingered on the old pillowcase I forgot to throw away. Or the echo of her laugh in the kitchen when she'd pour wine and talk about patients like she was on a sitcom. Those were the real injuries. The ones you can't bandage. One night, I got a call from her father. A surprise. We'd barely spoken in the decade I'd known Madison. He was always the quiet one. The one hiding behind Judith's venom and the daughter's egos. I hesitated, then picked up. Jason, he said. I just wanted to say, I'm sorry. I didn't say anything. I knew, he added quietly. Not the details. But I knew something was off. The way she spoke to you. How she rolled her eyes at your name. I should have called it out. But I didn't. Why are you telling me this now? I asked. He sighed. Because you deserve to hear it. And because I'm ashamed. I didn't have it in me to hate the man. But I didn't have forgiveness either. Not yet. After we hung up, I sat alone in the dark, listening to the quiet. And I realized something strange. I didn't feel broken anymore. I felt awake. The truth had cost me nearly everything. Time, trust, dreams. But it also gave me back something I'd lost years ago without noticing. Myself. I started running again. I stopped apologizing when I spoke. I began saying no without guilt. Madison had tried to reduce me. To clip me into something manageable. Predictable. Silent. And in the end, she only sharpened the edges of who I really was. A few weeks later, I got a letter. Handwritten. No envelope. Just slipped under my door. It was from her. Madison. The handwriting I once memorized. I don't know who I am anymore. I thought I was strong, smart, untouchable. Turns out, I was just scared. Scared of being loved the way you loved me. Because deep down, I knew I could never love you like that back. I'm sorry. Not because I got caught, but because I broke the one person who never tried to fix me. I hope someday you find someone who sees you the way I should have. M. I burned the letter, not out of hate, but because some stories aren't meant to be reread, and some people aren't meant to be remembered with kindness. Because forgiveness isn't forgetting. It's choosing to move forward without dragging the carcass of betrayal behind you. And that's exactly what I did. A month later, I flew out to Denver. No reason in particular. I just wanted air that didn't carry her shadow. Somewhere cold, clean, and honest. I booked a quiet cabin outside the city, far from the noise, the memory-soaked streets of LA, and even further from the echo of Madison's voice in my head. I didn't plan to talk to anyone. But life, in its strange cruelty and kindness, doesn't care about our plans. I met her at a bookstore. Yeah, a bookstore. I was sipping coffee, flipping through a hardcover I had no intention of buying, when she walked by, brunette, glasses, coat 2 sizes too big. She paused in front of the true crime shelf, muttered, "Of course they always blame the wife," and smirked like the world had disappointed her again. I laughed. She looked over. "Wasn't talking to you." "I know," I said, "but you're not wrong." She raised an eyebrow. "You always eavesdrop on strangers?" "Only the interesting ones." She rolled her eyes, but didn't walk away. "What's your story?" I sipped my coffee. "Too long for a bookstore." "Good," she said. "Long stories are the honest ones." Her name was Claire. She was a writer. No, really. Not an Instagram bio writer. A real one. Novels, journalism, broken deadlines. She had a nervous laugh and a way of looking at people like she saw both the mask and the face underneath it. We talked for 3 hours that first day. About nothing. About everything. She didn't know who I was. Didn't care about companies or titles or money. She asked about music, childhood scars, worst meals ever cooked. I told her the truth. Not all of it, just enough. The parts that mattered. I didn't mention Madison. Not yet. That night, in the silence of the cabin, I thought about how easy it would be to screw it up. To carry my bitterness into something new. To let fear wear the face of caution. But I didn't. I let her in. Slowly. 1 week turned to 2. Then a month. Then 3. And for the first time in a long, long while, I felt seen. Not for what I'd survived, but for who I'd become because of it. One night, sitting on her couch, she turned to me and said, "You look like someone who stopped waiting for apologies." I nodded. "They rarely come," I said. "They wouldn't fix anything even if they did," she added. She was right. The truth is, closure doesn't come in neat packages. It's not a letter, not a breakdown, not even revenge. It's peace. It's walking away from the wreckage without trying to understand why the fire started. I'd learned that the hard way, and I'd earned every scar. Now, when I think of Madison, it's not with rage. It's with clarity, like finally seeing a crooked painting for what it is, and choosing not to hang it up again. She was a storm. I survived her. And now, I build in sunlight. 6 months passed. Claire never asked for the whole story, not until one rainy evening when we were stuck inside with red wine and no power. Candlelight flickered across her face, and I saw it in her eyes. The hesitation, the curiosity, the patience. "You ever loved someone who made you hate yourself?" I asked, not looking up from the bottle I was rolling between my palms. She didn't answer, just waited. So I told her, not the polished version, not the summary, the raw truth. About Madison, her family, the betrayal, the wedding, the mask slipping, the lies, the men, the silence that followed like a shadow that couldn't be outrun. Claire didn't gasp, didn't pity me. She just listened, hands wrapped around her knees like she was holding herself still. When I finished, she said the simplest thing. "I'm glad you're not with her anymore." That was it. No sermon, no silver lining fluff, just truth. And I realized that's what I'd been craving all along. Not justice, not sympathy. Truth. Later that night, when she fell asleep on my chest, her breathing steady and her fingers curled into the fabric of my shirt, I let go of something I didn't even realize I'd been holding. Resentment. Quiet, constant, coiled around my spine like a vine. It slipped out of me without force. Just gone. I didn't need Madison to feel what I felt. I didn't need her to crumble. She could keep pretending, keep curating, keep performing. None of it mattered anymore. Because I remembered who I was. The man who showed up. The man who loved hard. The man who rebuilt after the storm without becoming a ruin himself. Sometimes I still get messages. Random emails from people who heard pieces of the story. A friend from college saying, "Man, I saw her in a bar with some new guy. She looks empty." Or someone from her residency who says, "You dodged a grenade, brother." I don't reply. I don't need the updates. I don't need to hear about her downfall. Because my victory isn't her failure. It's my life, my peace, my future. One afternoon, while walking through an art fair with Claire, we came across a painting, simple, black and white, just bold letters on canvas. It said, "Let the past rot, grow from its soil." I bought it. Didn't even ask the price. Hung it by the front door. Every time I leave, I see it. Every time I come home, I remember. I didn't just survive. I transformed. A year after the day I walked into that wedding and tore down a dynasty of lies with nothing but truth and timing, I stood in front of a mirror, buttoning a white shirt. Not for court. Not for revenge. Not to face down ghosts. But because I was heading to dinner with Claire's parents. And for the first time in my life, I wasn't nervous about being judged, measured, weighed. Because I wasn't looking for approval. I wasn't proving anything to anyone. I was just showing up. As myself. I took one last look in the mirror, smiled, and walked out. Claire was waiting by the door, hair up, coat half on, eyes full of quiet warmth. She didn't say anything, just reached out, took my hand, and squeezed. I squeezed back. No ceremony, no speeches, just two people walking forward. As we stepped into the evening air, I glanced up at the sky, clear, sharp, the kind of blue that used to make me feel like I didn't belong. Now, it felt like mine. I don't think betrayal ever leaves you entirely. Not the memories, not the what-ifs, but it does stop owning you. And that's the difference between a scar and a wound. Madison will always be a chapter, but I closed the book, burned the pages, built something new from the ashes. So here's what I'll tell you. If you're reading this with your own broken heart beating too loud in your chest, you will survive. You'll feel hollow, furious, humiliated. You'll question your worth, your memory, your instincts. And then, one day, you'll wake up and realize you didn't break. You evolved. That's the real ending. Not revenge. Not regret. Rebirth. And as for Madison, wherever she is, whatever face she's wearing this season, I wish her exactly what she gave me. Nothing.